Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al.
And I'm Micah.
And we're here today to talk about farming games. Woo!
Yay. I'm farming.
Well,
we're all farming.
Farming games about the farming. Welcome, Micah. How you doing?
Pretty good. Not bad. Can't complain. Things are exciting in my life right now in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of video games to keep the unexciting parts preoccupied. So
it's not like there's any big video games coming out soon. You know.
You'd think.
Are you?
What
are
are we? 1 week away from Pokemon?
Yeah. Are you looking forward to it? What's your hype levels?
I am very much looking forward to it. I am taking a little bit of a different approach this time.
Oh, intriguing.
To the lead-in, where previously I've done everything in my power to not let myself be spoiled by anything, where now I'm just kind of letting things happen as it happens.
Oh, interesting, because this is, I mean, we always get leaks, we always get spoilers before it comes out. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this year has been pretty calm until this week.
Oh, 100%.
But the interesting thing about the leaks this time is that until I think Thursday, the only people who had the game were not data miners and were not people who, could dump the game on the internet. So they have just been playing through the game. Mm-hmm. So yeah. We've kind of got things, even though we've got a lot of information, we've got it all really slowly because they've just been playing through the game.
Yep. Yeah, and it seems like from what I understand, I don't know all the specifics and everything. This isn't my forte, hacking and, data mining and so on and so forth. But from what I understand, there is a ROM of the game that is floating out in the shadowy corners of the internet, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think that happened on Thursday. Someone uploaded the ROM to the internet, and it's obviously has been taken down from a lot of places. Nintendo are, right on it with that, but as soon as it gets taken down, it's like the Hydra pops up in 2 more places. So
but it seems like that was the kind of the big turning. Well, it's not so much so that the game was released earlier. Somebody got it early because I think that in the past has been a lot of the case where someone will get it delivered a week early or something like that because somebody screwed up, or a store will break street date. Where this is just a ROM, so they're able to kind of like reverse engineer it and look at whatever they want to look at without having to play through the whole game. So we see everything's not everything, but at least the things that have crossed my eyes. I've seen like what shinies look like for certain Pokemon and
it's interesting because I remember, I don't know if you remember the week before Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out. Mm-hmm. Because that one was crazy because it was like right at the peak of the 3DS hacking era. So like it was incredibly easy to get a hacked 3DS. It was incredibly easy to install a ROM on the internet. And so like you had thousands of people, like tens of thousands of people downloading Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon a week before release and playing it on their 3DSs because they just installed it. It was so incredibly easy. Whereas now the Switch is obviously much harder to hack. If you've not got a first generation Switch, you basically can't hack it.
Right.
Which obviously leads to much fewer number of people who could possibly get the game playable in some way. Obviously there's an emulator, but it's not like if you're going to have an emulator, you're probably going to be, able to do other things as well. So like I think the just the number of people that are able to do this is much less just now.
Sure. Right. Yeah, and wasn't the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, wasn't the like big thing too that they had somehow put the entirety of the game's code in the demo? that they released?
They had not quite. They hadn't scrubbed a bunch of the data, so yeah, they managed to data mine all of the Pokemon and their sprites from that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't absolutely everything. But yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't. Maybe this is the aging cynic in me or something, but I always have to wonder how much of this is like intentional.
I don't think
for
this
the
one
sake
is
of
like, because
no, this one I don't think so for sure. But
most years when this happens, like someone actually gets like sued. So I don't think the Pokemon Company are leaking the game early. I think there might be some things, like I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, giving certain people certain information that gets leaked on the internet, in the run up to announcements and stuff like that, just to see how people react. But I don't think they'd be leaking the full game.
No, I don't. Yeah, the full game, I don't think so. But like things like leaving the Pokedex in the demo for Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, or like I don't remember what there was for Sword and Shield, but I remember something else similar.
Sword and Shield was kind of like what we've had for this one, but it was a little bit more in depth because the data miners got it really early.
Sure. Yeah. I just wonder what sales wise it does for them, or like having leaks available, like what it does.
Yeah, good question.
If I'm sure if it generates any kind of benefit, I'm sure they're aware of that, and I'm sure they have some sort of strategy that pertains to that. But
who knows?
Only Mr. Pokemon knows.
We are here today to talk about Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom, a game which apparently has 2 subtitles.
Yes. You gotta have 2 subtitles. They're it's like original names for like episodes of anime that are like translated.
Yeah.
And it's just very long. It's like a whole phrase.
Yeah.
It's like that. But, I've been seeing that more with games where they're like they're porting them and not porting them, but localizing them and translating just like the necessary stuff, like text.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like entirely rebrand it. So it gets the old double title treatment. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that in this episode. Before that, we're going to have a lot of news, just so much news. But first of all, Micah, what have you been playing?
I have been playing, obviously, Doraemon Story of Seasons, Friends of the Great Kingdom.
Imagine that.
We're going to say the whole name every time we say it, right? I have also been playing Harvestella.
Yeah.
Which is another farming-ish game, and
it is definitely a game.
Other conversation about that in another place that you can find harvest season content.
We're going to be talking about it in the greenhouse episode.
There you go. And then I've also been playing Persona 5 Royal, which is, it's Persona. But there's a game that I fell really in love with called Arcade Paradise. It's like a laundromat sim where you are trying to you inherit a laundromat from your very strict business father. And you find that there are arcade cabinets in the back of the laundromat, so you have to do your like daily tasks to run the laundromat, but at the same time you're trying to grow an arcade with the profits from the laundromat.
That's really interesting.
And eventually you're trying to get to a point where the arcade is the primary business and the laundromat is non-existent. But there are a lot of really wonky things about the game, development-wise. little things here and there that, you kind of clip through something. I have had like one or two instances in the many hours that I've played it where I got hard locked and had to restart the day.
Right.
But
that's the worst.
Otherwise, it's one of those games that you can tell they put a lot of, it's like a small team that put a lot of love into it, because every arcade game in the game is its own separate game that is like completely developed, and they're all based on like real life arcade games or existing arcade games. There's like a Dance Dance Revolution cabinet. Yeah. There's like a racing cabinet like similar to F-Zero. There's tons of different cabinets that you put in your arcade, and then you can just play them, and it's got a really good like gameplay loop. It's just really neat. I like it a lot, and I really fell in love with it, and I highly recommend it to anybody that likes sim type games, likes retro games. It's got a pretty neat, like, interesting story that's very like second to everything else that's going on, but there is a story there, and it's a good story about kind of like coming of age and dealing with problems with your parents and things like that. So yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I've just added it to my maybe play list.
yeah, it's good. So that's what I've been playing. What about you? What have you been?
I have been playing. So I've been playing a lot of Marvel Snap. So I have become obsessed with this.
You're on the Marvel Snap train? I have not, but I was recently on vacation with some friends, and they were all playing it. So
yeah. So everyone was raving about it, and I'm like, I like Marvel stuff, and I like card games. Let me try it out, and let me tell you, it was a dangerous thing to do. It's very fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm half decent at it. I'm not like getting up to like the really high levels, but I'm half decent. I'm good enough that I'm enjoying it and getting pretty far. Sure. And it's fun to like think up different strategies. So I'm enjoying that a lot.
Very cool.
I've also been playing the second Mario Rabbids game. What was that? Can't remember.
Oh yeah,
something of light.
The Sparks of Light, Sparks of
Hope.
Sparks of Hope. That's it.
Close enough.
We got there. Enough. Eventually, we got there.
So I've been playing that, which is. I mean, so did you play the first one?
I played a little bit of it. I'm not a very so there's a twofold issue with those games for me. One, I'm not a huge Rabbids fan. There's an energy to the Rabbids that is just a little too much for me.
Fair.
But also, I'm not like a big kind of like RTS like XCOM type combat fan. So I played a little bit because it's Mario and I like Mario, and I heard a lot of good things about it. And from what I played, I liked it, but it wasn't anything that I was ever really going to get super, super into.
Yeah, so I played the first one, and I had never played an XCOM style game before, so I had no idea what I was expecting, but I really enjoyed it. And so I got the second one, and I am enjoying it.
Yeah.
However, they've done some things to the like core gameplay that make me a little bit kind of like, I'm not sure about this. So previously it was using a grid-based system, whereas now you've basically just got free movement. Which like, it's interesting in a way because it like gives you different possible strategies, but also I'm just finding it a bit frustrating in that like your accuracy has to be much higher. When it was a grid system, you would just kind of vaguely hit a person and it would definitely hit them.
Point at the square.
Whereas here you're like, you just finding myself having to like redo things because I just didn't quite make it the first time because I'm just expecting it to be less accuracy required. So I don't hate it, and I'm not sure that I'm not saying it's a bad change, I'm not sure it's. I think I would prefer the grid-based system, and I get why they've done it because they've added more strategy. It just seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah,
they've
that's interesting. Why? I wonder why they would.
I think it's just because they wanted to make more different strategies. I think that was the idea.
Yeah, it just seems like that's the whole point of making the game in that style is to kind of adhere to that combat a little bit. But
you would think so. But the other thing is, the thing I hated most about the first game was the overworld. So you're like, oh, to get between the battles, you have to go across this stupid overworld and do these stupid, pointless challenges that have nothing to do with the game. And they're just like, I really just wish that was just a map, right? Where you just go on to the next one. You don't have to like do anything. You just go, right, okay, next battle, right? Like the point of this game is I want to do the XCOM style battles, right? I don't want a different game inside my game to get to the other games.
Sure.
So I found that really annoying. And they've just doubled down on that in this game. I feel like there's much more of that. And I'm just like, I just can't be bothered doing all this. Like, literally just give me a list of the battles and I will do the battles and they're good fun. Like, I'm fine with like all the skill tree stuff and all of that is fine and fun. And I think they've improved that in a lot of good ways in that your characters like power up at the same time. So you don't have to like go back and like grind to get a new character up to the level.
Sure.
Which is really good. But
yeah,
I don't know why you have this pointless additional way of playing on top of the actual game.
I am looking at I'm watching the trailer for it because I was curious about the gameplay, like the combat, and I see what you're saying about like the adventuring portion. Is that what you're talking about? Like traveling from battle to battle is like, I don't know, maybe more like
I just don't care about
Super Mario Odyssey kind of like style.
Yeah, but if Odyssey was bad.
It looks like there's puzzles and stuff like that. Is that like that you have to do?
There are, but they're not interesting puzzles. They're not complicated puzzles, and it's like I'm not playing a puzzle game, right? I'm playing an XCOM strategy game.
Right.
That's what I'm there for. I'm not there for the puzzles. If I want to play Toad's Treasure Tracker, I'll play that.
Which is a banger game, by the way.
Well, that's the thing. It's a worse puzzle game than that would be. And I just don't know who wants this out of this game.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It is strange. I mean, like something like that does maybe appeal to me a little bit more as like something that I would play, but I know that I'm not going to like the combat. So I know that it's not, it doesn't really, it's compromising for people that aren't necessarily going to love the game anyways. So
it feels like it's two different games in one. And it's like that bit of it is just a bad version of that kind of game as well.
Sure.
Anyway.
Very weird.
Whatever. So I mean, I'm overall enjoying it, but I think it'll take me a while to finish it. Not least because Pokemon comes out on Friday.
Right. Yeah. All of this is going to be irrelevant in a week because that's what we'll be playing. So if you decided on a version that you're gonna.
So I've got both games coming, and what I've done the last couple of times that I've really enjoyed is go through one of the games really fast and have that finished, so that then I have a game in post-game for anything that needs to be done. Like, you know, if there are events and stuff, I can go and claim it in that and not have to worry about where I am in the game. And that's done. I can like see all of the story and see all of the like spoilers really quick and early on. Not that I've not seen many of the spoilers. And then go through the other game much slower. And maybe do some kind of challenge with it. I've not decided what challenge I'll do this time. With Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I did a Professor Oak challenge, which was good fun. That if you don't know what that is, listeners, that's where you don't know either. So that's where before you challenge a gym, you have to have caught and evolved every Pokemon possible up to that point.
Oh, that's what I call the Micah can't stop himself from doing that normally challenge.
Yeah, but it's the evolving that's the difficult part. So like you have to get your starter fully evolved. You have to get like all the 3 stages fully evolved. Which before the first gym is a lot of work.
Right. Yeah.
So that I enjoyed that. It was good fun, especially when you got to the second gym and then suddenly you're down into the underground and you've got like another 30 Pokemon to catch.
That's neat. I like that idea. Fun. I've never considered that, but I like that strategy, that game plan. Maybe I will adopt that for this release.
So I'm probably going to go Violet as my story speedrun, and then go through Scarlet at a slower pace, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I don't think a Professor Oak run would work in this game, considering you can battle any gym at any point, and I suspect most of the Pokemon are available before you even get to any of the gyms. So that would require catching all of the Pokemon before you do any gym. Is not really that much of a challenge as like just playing the game and then playing the other part of the game. You know, I've not looked in too much detail as to whether like beating gyms unlock more Pokemon or anything, but yeah, I suspect that won't be the challenge I do this time, but we'll see.
Sure.
And the third game I've been playing recently is a game called Bloom. Have you heard of this game, Micah?
I don't think so. Bloom.
So, Bloom is a game for the Playdate.
Ah. That would explain why I haven't heard it, because I don't have a Playdate.
So I got my Playdate a few weeks ago, and it's very fun, and I've been looking forward to playing this game because it is technically a farming game. It's technically the only farming game I know of on the Playdate. And
I didn't even know that there were farming games at all on the Playdate, and that makes me want to Playdate even more.
Well, there you go. So Bloom is a game where you are you're a character who's Midori, and you have just kind of left your family home and you're telling your parents you're off to college, but you're actually off to start a flower shop. And so this is about you growing the flower shop. You plant lots of flowers, you harvest them, and when you harvest them, they sell. And there's basically 2 parts to this game. It's very simple, but also quite well done. So there's like 2 levels in your house. The top level is the garden where you're planting, and that's kind of like your standard. You buy seeds, you plant them, you water them, they grow, you harvest them. And the other one is that in your house you have like access to your phone, and in your phone you have like the shop and the way to pay off your debts and settings and stuff, but also messages. And almost all of the story is through text messages with people in the game.
Oh, that's cool.
So
yeah, I'm looking at some screenshots right now. It looks really nice.
Yeah, so there's a number of characters. So there's your landlord, obviously. There's your parents individually, your girlfriend, your just another childhood friend. And there's a couple of other ones that I don't want to say because they just they're plot points.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's about you dealing with, your parents and relationships and just trying to grow your business. And so I finished the story, and I'm just I think I'm nearly at the point where I'm paying off the last debt, and that'll probably be the last thing in the game, I think, but I'll find out once that's done. And yeah, the story was really good. It's really impressive how much they can get through with just text messages. And it's things like, for example, it's all, you're not sending messages yourself. You choose like one of 2 messages to send, but they basically mean the same thing. So it's not really choices.
Sure.
But you are, you have some level of autonomy within that. And you can, there's a couple of plot points where you're like not messaging people and you get to see the reaction to that and stuff like that. So it's really interesting and good fun. It runs on real time, so it takes a long time to get plants.
Interesting.
The plant that I'm currently growing takes like a day and a half to grow. So they're not like long, like a week or something. But yeah, so it takes a wee bit of time, which is fine, I think, for this sort of game, because it's not the sort of game that you play like sit down and do it for ages. It's the sort of thing you pick up, you play for 5 minutes, you go through a bunch of the story, and then you put down, and then you pick it up a couple hours later, sort of thing.
Sure. Wow. That's really neat. It looks really cool, too.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it, and I recommend anyone who has a Playdate to play it, and anyone who doesn't have a Playdate, probably don't buy one, because I suspect that it's not worth the money for most people. But I mean,
how's the crank,
Michael? Let's be honest. The crank is really nice, actually. Like, it feels both flimsy and not flimsy at the same time.
Okay.
And it's really, really hard to explain. It feels like if I tried, I could probably break it off. But if you're just using it as is, it feels pretty strong. And it's really nice. Like, it's integrated really well. It's got like a little sound when you open it in the game and a little sound when you close it.
That's kind of like if you're
it's nice.
Popping Joy-Cons on or off.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Cool.
And it's really nice. I got the case with it. The case is really nice. It's like a magnetic. It's kind of like the like iPad case, folio case that you just kind of pop on the back.
Oh, sure.
Flips closed. It's really nice. I'm looking forward to it. I really want the stereo dock for it. That'd be really nice, so I could just like pop it on my desk.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun. I can see there's a lot of potential for this thing. But it's got a long way to go. But it's really nice. Like, see, for adding games that aren't obviously within their subscription service, so I bought Bloom on itch.io, downloaded the file, and then you go onto the Playdate website and you can upload the file to it from the website completely wirelessly.
Oh.
So you just go, I want to put this on my Playdate, and then, 5 minutes later you look at your Playdate and it says, hey, you got a new game.
Wow.
It's really nice.
That's pretty good, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of similar to like throwing files over on the like Linux side of the Steam Deck, I guess, where you just kind of, if you have to like I don't know, there was a program that I had to install to like send files over that communicates between my PC and Linux, and it's pretty nice. I just drop it in a folder and then it just shows up on the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Good fun.
I have always had my eye on a Playdate. It has never been like really a priority, but I do love as a handheld console fan, it's hard to not want to play one.
It does feel a little bit ridiculous when I'm sitting at my desk with my with multiple switches, my Playdate and my Steam Deck all just sitting around me. But what can I say? I like my games consoles.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Shall we speedrun some news?
Sure, let's do it.
So
there's a lot of it. We got a lot to go.
So there is so much news that I've chunked it up into sections, listeners. And some of them we're just going to speed through them, just give you the information. There's probably not much to say. But let's go with it. So the first one is about releases. So there's 3 games that have been released recently. Lonesome Village. This is the Zelda-like farming game where you're a coyote. This has come out now. There was one issue with this that I am a little bit frustrated with, and lots of other European people are quite frustrated with, in that all of the Switch codes that they gave were American Switch codes.
Oh.
So we can still use them, but we technically need to have like a second Nintendo account, which is American. So I already had one, so it wasn't an issue, but it's still a bit annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying. It's a little bit of an oversight, I think.
Yeah.
When you're doing
and they were like, we're really sorry. This was the only thing that Nintendo let us do. And I was like, that doesn't sound right, because I have had many Kickstarters with Switch codes, and they've managed to do it across multiple regions.
Right.
Like, this sounds like you clicked the wrong button or didn't realize there were regions and bought all the ones that you need, because game developers, they need to pay to get the codes for Switches. It's not like Steam where you can just get a bunch of free codes.
Yeah. Which is...
And so they would have paid for all these codes.
Also
and then
wild to me.
Well, yes, that is wild, and Nintendo really should stop doing that.
Yeah.
But then you go, oh no, we've bought all these codes. Oh well, we need to give them to people, so we need to tell people that this is what they need to do. You know,
Yeah, right.
To their credit, they are saying that if you want to take a Steam code instead, you can do that. But that's like probably because they've already paid for the code, the Switch codes, so
yeah,
it doesn't really make any difference to them.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I was wondering in the link that you had provided me, if it was a Kickstarter link that I can't see because I didn't back it, but but I was wondering what because it did say Switch codes, and I was like, what happened with
they
them?
Basically that's basically them explaining that they said where are we? Many of you are complaining about having to create a new account to redeem the Switch code if you're not from America. We know that sucks. However, we couldn't purchase codes for different regions other than our region.
Oh,
and then they've got a link to how to... It doesn't sound right.
No. It sounds like maybe they could have created a like an account in another region to buy the codes then, but maybe they just didn't know how to do that or weren't aware that was a thing that they needed to do.
Yeah. So they are... the one thing is they're saying that they're looking into a solution for people. So hopefully there'll be something, but who knows what the deal is. But yeah, it doesn't feel great.
The game looks great.
I haven't
been on my wish list. But yeah, it does. It looks neat, very cute.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I'm looking forward to playing it at some point. Maybe Christmas time, something like that. I have a lot of things I need to deal with. Certainly not for the next month because Pokemon. Yeah.
Agreed.
Next we have Brewmaster is out now. So this is the beer brewing simulator.
Mm-hmm.
No controversy around this release as far as I can see. But if you wanna brew some beer, go get Brewmaster now.
Wisconsin, well known for its beer.
Okay.
I'm sure that
I'll take your word for it.
It's mediocre beer. Let's say that.
Okay. Fine.
I'm sure there are friends of mine that would like to play this game.
Well, I mean, I'm not a beer fan, so
I'm not really.
I tried 100 Days, the winemaking one, and I just couldn't get into it because I couldn't care about the wine.
Yeah, I had done a lot of commission work. A lot of my commission work was with beer companies too over the last few years. So seeing the hop icon has a really visceral, gives me a really visceral reaction to it. So
yeah,
I'm probably not going to play this one. But
fair enough. Next, we have a very minor release, which is Farming Simulator 22 is now on the Mac App Store. So if you were wanting to play this game, but you specifically wanted to get it on the Mac App Store, you can do that now. So niche.
It is really niche.
It's so bizarre. Whatever. I don't know why it took them so long to do that, but whatever. Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
We have 2 release dates. So Aka, which is the beautiful game where you play as a red panda and you can go to sleep on a giant capybara. And that's all you need to know about this game.
Yes.
Is officially releasing on December the 15th.
Very cute. Very excited.
Announced on the Nintendo Indie Direct, which I was totally not expecting. This is the thing. Can we stop with the releasing for this year, please? I think we're meant to be done now. We got. I don't have any more year. Everything's scheduled now. We'll maybe cover that next year. And Kinseed announced their 1.0 release is coming out on the 8th of December. This is just another farming game.
Okay.
So along with
there's a lot of them.
Dates, I know. Along with by the way, so I think it was actually the Greenhouse episode. In the last Greenhouse episode, Kevin and Kelly talk about who no one had any idea that there were going to be so many farming games released. Can I just point out that 4 years ago, I started a farming game podcast. So I kind of had an inkling that maybe something was happening.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say. It's not like I started this podcast yesterday. It was 4 years ago.
I mean, even what was that episode after the Nintendo Direct? Is that what they were talking about?
No, it was before that even.
Oh, yeah, because the last core Nintendo Direct, that
one. No, it was after that. It was after that, yeah.
Yeah, all the farming games that they had announced.
None of this was surprising to me. It's not like this has just happened. All of these games are because of Stardew Valley, right?
Yeah.
4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, Stardew Valley came out. 5 years ago, Stardew Valley came out. And everyone went, oh, we like this game. Let's go make it in a different way. And now everything's starting to come out. This is not surprising.
No, not in the slightest. And especially not for, people who like us who have been aware of the existence of farming games for a very long time. Where and I assume a lot of the people that listen to the podcast too, they've always existed and there's always been quite a few of them, just kind of not very popular or as covered. Certainly way more now than there ever have been.
Exactly. Stardew made it mainstream and made it cool. And that's why we're now in the situation that we're in, which I'm not complaining about. You just need to accept that you're not going to play all the games. Yeah. There are too many to play.
It's true. Just got to come to terms with it. So
after the release dates, we also have delays to release dates. So first of all, the physical release of Ancora Lost Days is now coming next year in Q1. So if you were waiting on that, you're going to wait a little bit longer. Mineko's Night Market is coming next year. So I'm not surprised by this one. I was expecting this one to be delayed again because we hadn't heard anything about it and they were just saying 2022. But the really good thing is we also have a new trailer. And it sounds like, I suspect, probably reasonably early next year is what I would be expecting at this point.
Sure. Yeah, it's really nice to see this name again. I was very, very excited for this game when they announced it, and every time they would say anything about it, it was exciting, and then it just kind of dropped off. I just assumed maybe it got caught up in some sort of development hell, and it was maybe not going to actually happen, and it's nice to see it feels like that's not the case.
We've been waiting on this for so long. I need to double check, but I think Mineko's Night Market is the earliest game that we've talked about on this podcast that isn't out yet.
That's unfortunate, but it's great that they're taking their time to do what they need to do and make it good.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I just find it funny. I just find it interesting of just how long we've been talking about this game.
Right.
And yeah, I suspect there probably were some issues because there are always issues. But yeah, there's probably some significant issues. I wouldn't expect development based. I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of annoying rights issue or something people issue.
Sure.
Someone left and they were the main developer, or there was someone signed a contract that wasn't right or something like that. It doesn't I know games are complicated, but Mineko's Night Market doesn't look like one of the more complicated games.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, and who knows, these indie developers, it's, they've all got small teams that have their own things going on too, so
yeah.
Who knows?
Exactly. And the final delay is Kitori Academy, who have delayed their alpha. And instead of releasing their alpha at the end of this year, they're going to release a pre-alpha early next year. And I'm not going to rant as much about this as I did last time. Stop using the phrase pre-alpha. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make any sense. Do you know why, people? Do you know why alpha test is a thing that people say? It's because it's the first test. right?
Yeah, it
It's the
exists
first
before everything else.
It is the first wide test, like the first test for people like outside of the main development and testing team, right? It's the first thing, hence alpha, alpha being the first letter of the Greek alphabet, the second set of testing being the beta test, because hey, beta is the second letter of the Greek alphabet. So to say it's a pre-alpha means nothing. It can't be before the first. It is just the alpha. Just call it that. Or, you know what? Here's a crazy idea. Just call it early access.
I hate to break this to you, but they're probably going to keep calling it pre-alpha. They may even have a new one and call it pre-alpha.
Oh, don't even do that to me. I will ban you from this podcast if you do that. Right, so we have some updates for games. Atomic Crops have released their dearly beloved update. That's deer, D-E-E-R.
Oh, I get it.
A deer, because there's a new boss in it, which is a big deer.
Looks horrifying.
Yeah, I know that people love this game, and I'm very glad that people love this game, but this update makes me less likely to want to play it again.
Why is that?
It's everything about the game that I didn't like turned up to 11, you know?
And probably what a lot of the people who do like the game, it's more of that.
Absolutely.
I have not played this, so I don't know anything about Atomic Crops other than, what I've seen.
Yeah, listeners, if you want to hear my opinions on it, there is an episode for it. I'll link it in the show notes. Good luck.
Good luck.
And the list of changes in this update will be in the show notes as well if you want to go see the details of that. Another thing that we're not going to delve too much into because it is very specific bug fixes, but there was an update to Disney Dreamlight Valley as well. Fixes. So, have you played Dreamlight Valley yet?
I started playing the game, and I really liked it. It was right before we had to... we went on vacation, so I didn't get a lot of time with it. And since we came after that was like, I don't know, there was a lot of traveling in the last month. So it was before all of that traveling. By the time I had settled down and everything, I didn't get back to it yet. I did see that there's a lot that has changed since then as far as like bugs and things. When I played it, it was very early, very buggy. On the Switch.
There's been quite a lot of bug fixing, and there's been one big content update.
And that was the Scar update, right?
That was the Scar update, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, if you have a very specific bug that you really hope is fixed, and let's be honest, like this update came out like nearly 2 weeks ago. Because of timing with recordings. It was actually out before the last episode came out, but after it was recorded. So you probably already know whether the bug is fixed, but I'll link it in the show notes nonetheless.
Have you played Dreamlight Valley?
I have, yeah. Yeah, we did an episode on it. I have enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I'm going to not put too much more time into it just now, but I probably will put a lot more time into it in the future. It's just kind of those, when exactly do I put that time in? But yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Very cool.
And the final update, which is the most exciting update, is the update to Apico, including butterflies, solitary bees, alchemy, and of course, our very own Cody is in the game.
What?
Yeah, this is the Cody update. So for those who aren't aware, Cody, one of our regular co-hosts, is in the update for Apico as an NPC. I believe she is the one that tells you about the solitary bees. Sorry, Cody, if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Let's keep going. We have a number of just new pieces of info, so this didn't fit into any of the previous categories. So first of all, we have some new trailers for Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, and also the information that it is also coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Obviously, we knew it was coming to Switch initially, but those it is also coming to, and they're all going to be releasing at the same time. And there's also a collector's edition that has been announced.
Are you excited about this? Or
So unlike you, Micah, I was a reasonably late comer to farming games. So I never played this game originally. We did do an episode on it a few years ago where Rochelle basically told me about the game. It was a really weird episode because I'd never played it, but I thought it was interesting. And I'm very excited to try it out because it seems like one of the more unique Harvest Moon Story of Seasons games.
Sure.
In how it does things, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that actually feels when I play it myself.
Yeah. Yeah,
what about
it's
you?
I mean, I'm excited for it because it does also kind of it's a little later in the like formative years of farming games for me, so it wasn't like, I think for a lot of people this was their first like exposure to Harvest Moon.
Yeah. This one certainly seems to hold a special place in a lot of people's history with farming games.
Yep. And I do love it as a game. It is not exactly my like favorite Harvest Moon game. Friends of Mineral Town was kind of that for me. I do recognize that Friends of Mineral Town comparatively is a very stunted game as far as farming games go, but it's just whatever you came up with and whatever your wherever your nostalgia is. But I do have a lot of fond memories of this. I did see a lot of people were a little bit kind of miffed about I don't know, either the graphics or something. There was just seemed like there was excitement about it, but also like reservation about some of it too.
Right.
Like how it looked, but I think it looks fine, and I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job of making it look in the same style, but still would not look like an N64 game. Sorry, GameCube game. It was right. GameCube, wasn't it? N64.
Yeah.
So like it feels like it could have been like a modern version of it, which is exactly what it is. But I think they've done that pretty well.
Yeah. I'm very happy to see that they are revisiting these older Harvest Moon games and at least in the West, rebranding them as Story of Seasons and kind of making this move to recapture a lot of these memories for people, but also reestablish the name as Story of Seasons and have that be what people are familiar with, maybe more so than the name Harvest Moon because of, obvious reasons. But I would like to see, I'm excited about what this means for future possible remakes too. Like Save the Homeland was another one that I was a big fan of, and I would love to see them redo that. They had a lot of games on the Wii, and it would be nice to see some re-releases for those too.
Yeah.
Collector's Edition does not have a plush in it, which is, I'll be honest, is a little upsetting.
Dreadful. How could they do such a thing?
I don't understand. It's unfair, uncalled for.
Yeah.
Blown away.
I don't know what to say.
In case you're wondering, though, it comes with a notebook, a poster, and some stickers for anyone who hasn't seen the Collector's Edition.
I mean, I suspect people who care have seen it.
Probably.
Like, if you're hearing me say this as a Collector's Edition as the first time you've heard about it, you're not buying the Collector's Edition. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Next, we have Spells and Secrets has been confirmed coming to Xbox and PlayStation. This is the Wizard Magic School game releasing in 2023 that you should be playing.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's all we need to say about that.
Yeah, correct. It looks great. It looks like it's going to be a really exciting thing to play as the only Magic School game releasing in the foreseeable future.
And we have 2 new trailers, one for Moonstone Island and one for Lens Island, because everything's island just now.
Just moving everything to islands. Get off the mainland, I guess.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be called island, right? It can be on an island and not put island in the name.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Animal Crossing New Horizons didn't say island in the name, but it was very definitely on an island. That was kind of the major thing about it.
Yeah, it sure was.
Just saying. Anyway. Right, we're on to the final set of news, which is new games. And boy, have we got a selection of games for you. So a few of these were talked about in the most recent Nintendo Indie, what is it called? Nintendo Indies Spotlight
Indie World?
Or something like that. Indie World, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is called Sally. So there's a Kickstarter for this. The Kickstarter finishes, if you're listening to this on release day, it finishes tomorrow. So quick, hurry up. It finishes on Thursday. Go get it if you're interested. It has already hit its funding goal. And Switch support is a stretch goal, which it hasn't hit as of recording, but is not too far. Like, it doesn't look like it would be an insane amount of extra to get to that. So if you're interested in that, go have a look. The blurb is: craft, cook, farm, build, and explore to your heart's content in this magical journey of self-discovery aboard a giant flying ship.
Okay.
The interesting thing I think about this game is, so you're on a ship, obviously, but you're like navigating through the stars, essentially, which is quite interesting. It's got quite an interesting way of navigation, which looks quite fun. Almost kind of like a combination of different aspects of Spiritfarer in that.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be backing this game just because I have too many games as it is, but I'm certainly considering it, and that's what matters.
Yeah, it looks neat. It looks like a really pretty game. Neat concept.
Yeah.
Kind of gives me Howl's Moving Castle vibes a little bit.
Can't say I've heard of that game.
Oh, that's a Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh, right, okay. So,
even the little Lucid Tales like flame icon they have on the side here, the little...
Right. I have still not seen any Studio Ghibli stuff, although that is definitely about to not be the case, because they just released a Star Wars short about Gru.
I did see that.
Grogu.
Yeah.
So I am definitely going to watch that. So I very soon will no longer be able to say I've not watched any Studio Ghibli stuff.
You've watched at least one Studio Ghibli thing.
At least 4 minutes of Studio Ghibli stuff.
Yeah. Well, Howl's Moving Castle is a good one if you decide that you want to try it.
I mean, it's the sort of thing that I will probably at some point watch, but I'm not like rushing to do it because there's always way too much content to consume.
Yes. There's certainly no shortage of content.
We love content. Next, we have Meat Light. That's MEET Light, not MEAT. So this one's also on Kickstarter. You've got more time to get this one, though. It finishes on the 7th of December. Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation support are all stretch goals, but they've already been unlocked, and the game is funded. A few taglines for you. An open-world fantasy RPG life sim game, that's a lot of words, inspired by classics. Grow crops, craft tools, tame animals, and befriend magical beings. You will take over your great uncle's forge and become the new blacksmith. Build your new house from scratch, customize your appearance, make friends with animals, nature, and your neighbors. Trade with the village and give them a hand if you wish. But the loss of your beloved spouse has also unlocked your clairvoyant ability, which you will gradually develop and perfect. Enter the magical world of energy, which holds many surprises for you. Meet its inhabitants, explore lost places, and above all, discover the secrets of the universe.
What? It got So it just kept going.
I know, right? So it's interesting. There seem to be like some kind of like, other ways of interacting with the environment other than just like picking things up.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. Like I suspect it's kind of be on the kind of style of like Breath of the Wild abilities, that sort of thing. They use that. They
kinda
certainly say that.
Out.
Exactly. So they say that Breath of the Wild is an inspiration as well. So my one real worry about this is they say one of their inspirations for the gameplay is my time at Porsche.
Oh.
And
see.
I'm like,
interesting.
And they say, and specifically they say that's the crafting, housing and social aspects of that. And I'm like, I'm not really sure I want to play a game that has inspiration from my time at Porsche for the crafting aspect of it. But that's not my no.
Yeah, the housing and
love it, though.
social aspects of Porsche, I guess I don't mind too much, but the crafting side of it.
you're gonna get back in because they say their inspiration for the narrative style and atmosphere is My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay, I'm in. I mean, Breath of the Wild started. Everything on here that they're pointing to is inspiration. Breath of the Wild, Ori and the Blind Forest, Stardew, Totoro, all good stuff.
And My Time at Porsche.
And My Time at Porsche is on there as well.
Look,
I
some
didn't
people
have
love that game.
As terrible of a time at Porsche as I think most of the people around me have, but
I know that some people love that game. I really do. Yeah. I just did not.
Yeah.
So, saws.
Sandrock though you liked, right? I'm just kidding.
Next, we have Fields of Mistra. Now, this is an interesting looking one. So this is just coming soon. The tagline for this is, start your new life, build the farm of your dreams as you discover a world brimming with possibilities. Magic, romance, and adventure all await you in this nostalgic farming life sim RPG. So it all sounds kind of pretty generic. When you look at it, it looks very kind of, I want to say SNES style.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what's because it's not really Game Boy-esque. It feels more SNES to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I maybe like Game Boy Advance kind of.
Oh yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, it's Game Boy
little
Advance.
Bit of that.
Right. You're right.
But yeah,
there's always a something, right? There's always a something in these games. They've always got to have their hook. The interesting hook in this one is your neighbors are also farming at the same time as you.
Oh, neighboring farms.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very.
Yeah, the style looks really neat. The art style is cool. It's very 90s magical girl anime.
Yeah, it's also
Kinda
very
Sailor
clearly
Moon.
influenced by Stardew Valley, but not in it looks identical to it kind of way.
Sure. Yeah,
which is good.
I'm a fan of those kind of like I guess GBA is maybe the system that I would attribute it to, but that kind of like chunkier, safer looking pixel art, I guess. Like,
yeah,
you know, seems like it's not pixel art that you could like cut yourself on, kind of like very.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love Stardew and its art style, but I definitely get what you mean.
Yeah, and I do like that kind of this kind of art style that they're going with here. So
yeah,
it looks good.
Next, we have Wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's wonderful, which is a really hard word to say.
like wandering.
Yeah, you're full of wandering around.
Yes,
as opposed to wondering about things.
Yes, maybe
my
both.
Tongue doesn't work with that. It doesn't work. So this one is also coming soon, whatever soon means. Wonderful is about uncovering what lies beyond. Tile after tile explore a charming and beautiful world at your own pace in this cozy mix between exploration, building, and strategy. So this seems to be like a tile-based game with procedural generation, but it also seems to have like kind of short games. So they say that like sessions length between 5 to 30 minutes. So it sounds like the sort of thing where you're like, I'm going to play this game for like 10, 15 minutes sort of thing at a time. And like you play the game and then you're done and then you go on to a new game with a new world sort of thing, I think.
Okay. I see. I'm looking at the screenshots here and I do see one.
I mean, it looks lovely. I love the art style.
They do say pre-alpha, not final quality.
Well, that makes sense, right? Because what they're saying is it's before the first public test.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fine, I'll accept that. The art style reminds me a lot of a Short Hike, but slightly like higher resolution.
Yep. Yeah, if a Short Hike was upscaled significantly, and yeah, it looks really neat.
And finally, oh boy, I'm ready for this one. I hope you're ready for this one. Right. So this one is called Everdream Valley. It's also coming soon. Everdream Valley is a mix of adventure, exploring, crafting, and farming mechanics that will help you relive the times when summer holidays were an amazing adventure. In your dreams, with the help of a magic hat, you will be able to play the role of various animals. Remember that what you do during the day and at night has an impact on the farm. If you don't fend off the wolves as a dog, you may not have anyone to build pens for when you wake up. The goals of two ducks who seemingly do not interfere with the life of the farm may turn out to be completely contrary to the plans of the inhabitants of the hen house. A cat that is at most a bit cranky during the day, at night may aspire to be a war criminal. And war never changes.
What is happening?
I don't know. A cat at night aspires to be a war criminal.
That's a sentence I didn't think I would maybe ever hear. Let alone
nobody could predict that was where that was going. It's like, you know how sometimes people are like, oh, you have no idea where this is going. You will never predict it. You're like, oh, I bet it's not that crazy. And then you're like, oh, what?
This is
no
incredible.
Never in my right mind would I imagine that. Look, you get to herd sheep. That's what I'm seeing. You've got like a flock of sheep and you have to herd them. I like the look of that.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure about what I think about the war criminal cat.
I don't understand.
So I think what they're saying is that
just for that, I think
during the day, like it's a normal kind of farming game, but at night you like go into the dreams of your animals and have to do things as those in their dreams. And if you don't do those things, they won't help you out in the farm in the morning. I think that's what they're trying to say.
I see. The animal models are very cute. The ducks are very cute. I'm looking at the Steam page for this right now, and they're spotlighting somebody who is streaming the demo of it, which is available. And it looks neat.
It looks interesting.
Seems to run pretty well. Their
dream mechanic does sound like an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. That whole paragraph was just it was like a dream.
An ever dream,
if you might say. Is that. Yeah. I don't know what to say about it. But there you go. That's another game.
It's really something.
All right, that's all the news. We're only an hour into the episode.
We made it.
Micah.
Yes. Al.
Doraemon Story of Seasons. Friends of the Great Kingdom. Before we get into this, let me tell you, listeners, We have done an episode on the previous game in this series, Doraemon Story of Seasons. We are going to probably talk a lot about that game when we talk about this game, because I'm going to be honest, we're just going to be comparing the two, right?
Yeah.
Doraemon Story of Seasons was our game of the year, I want to say 2020? No, 2019?
No,
one of the two.
21. No, wait.
No, it wasn't 2021. It wasn't last year. Was it? I've written all these down. Give me a second. I've written all these down.
Time doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
It was 2019.
2019.
2019, our game of the year on this podcast was Doraemon Story of Seasons. 2020 was Summer in Mara, and 2021 was Spiritfarer, just for the record. So if you want to hear that before this, the link to that episode will be in the show notes. Obviously, you don't have to listen to like the news section and stuff like that, because that's wildly out of date coming from 2019. But we will probably refer to it a lot.
Yes.
Micah,
I suspect that we will.
Intro this. Give me your elevator pitch. What do you think about this game?
Doraemon Story of Seasons Friends of the Great Kingdom is another Doraemon isekai, I believe is the word that is typically used for this sort of story or plot, where you play Nobi, you farm. Now, instead of a kind of just like rural farm town that has no real theme or anything other than that it's just a farm town, you are now in a fantasy world. There are different fantasy races like elves and dwarves and, you know, the kind of standard Tolkien-esque fantasy races. There is a kingdom and a queen. You're on a different planet, apparently, because you crash landed on this planet with Doraemon's spaceship.
Let's not pretend like the story makes any sense, right?
You got really upset. Well, you know, you and your friends all got upset at your respective parents, and decided to run away. And by run away, they got into a spaceship and went to space and crash landed on a planet that is very similar to Earth, but is not Earth. It's, what is it, Illuma?
Oh, well, you think I remember? I can't remember. You know what I'm most confused about the story? Because we're obviously not going to talk about the story too much, because we're not going to want to spoil things. And
right.
I think if you're interested in the story, you just got to do it. Did the first game happen?
It's a good question. It's a very good question.
They don't, unless I missed something, they just don't refer to it at all. And the last, I believe the way that you end the story in the last one is oh, we could go home. Oh, but let's stay here for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, if I'm remembering correctly. But then, so you must go home, but then you're just sitting at home.
You know,
and it seems like nothing has changed. The introduction is so similar to the first game, I legitimately thought I'd opened the wrong game.
It's, you know, the kids are upset. The parents are being unfair. It's time to go to space.
Yeah. So I guess
it is very similar, though. You're right. It is a very similar introductory, which I think really is just I felt that for the first one. I absolutely feel that for this one to some degree. That it is just a really quick way for them to get you into the world of the game. They don't.
Well, there's
not a whole lot put into the reasons for why they are where they are. But
so you say that, but and this is going to come to my first issue with it. The introduction is so long. There are so many cutscenes. I don't know how they managed to get so much time before you even start playing a game.
Okay, so can I respond to that?
Feel free.
The whole game is a lot of cutscenes, at least in the way that I have played it so far. And this was my question for you was because obviously you can play the game different ways if you want to. You can do just farming. You can focus on mining if you want. You can, it's like any other farming sim. I found myself doing a lot more interacting with the NPCs and the other characters in the world than I have in maybe any farming game previously, as much as I have in the first. Like, I haven't left spring yet, and I have 30 hours in the game. I am on the 28th day of spring, and I am at I'm at minimum 5 of the 10 hearts with all of the NPCs.
Wow.
And I'm not doing anything that I feel is like really going out of my way. All I do is I talk to each person once during the day.
So what I will say is that I think it's definitely set up to be like that. Like, I haven't actually checked, I've not timed it, but the days feel long. They feel longer than the previous game, and they feel longer than any farming game I played. And I suspect that's twofold. One, because they really want you to you build those relationships with everybody, right? Like, the first thing they do in the game is, hey, here's 10 tasks, go meet all the people, right? Kind of like how the Stardew one works. It's like, go meet all the people that run the shops. You need to go meet these people. And like, in comparison to the first game, like, you live with all of your friends that you traveled with. They're all in the same house, whereas previously it was like they were kind of dotted around the village.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely much more focused on those relationships. I don't tend to play it that way because, like, I'm going to be honest, I don't really like people. So, and the more I talk to people, the more cutscenes you get. So I don't tend to do that. I kind of focused on the farming a lot in this one. But yeah, it's mainly because the farming in this is basically exactly the same as the first game, which is perfect. Like, I don't think it needed any changes, the farming itself. And so, like, I just it's one of my favorite farmings in any games. And so I wouldn't want that to change.
Sure. There are a couple things that they did improve upon. Maybe this is something that we can touch on quickly since we're at that point. But there are a couple things that they did improve upon. I agree that largely the farming was great. Absolutely, streamlined process. Very easy to get into. Good loop. But there were some things like not having stamina available on the screen, which I think for the game, I think we mentioned this too. I think
we did.
It was with the intention of making the game look as clean as possible, so that you didn't have a whole lot of UI. Which is nice, but doesn't bother me at all with the second one having as much UI as they have. It's still pretty minimal. I don't really notice it as like taking up more space or ruining the atmosphere of the game at all. And it is really just a good quality of life change. You do have hearts now for your stamina bar in the top left, and in the bottom right you have your tools and your bag, which are on 2 separate tabs that you can switch between. And then you have your favorites for your tools too that you assign to the D-pad or depending on what you're playing on.
Yeah, that quick access was a really nice addition. I tell you what was also, and I don't know whether this was actually in the first game, but I don't think it was, or at least if it was much less detailed. Their control mapping is incredible in this game. So you can not only choose like what buttons do what. So I was playing this on my Steam Deck. I don't know where were you playing it? Were you playing it on Switch or Steam Deck?
On Switch.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You can have different controls for keyboard, mouse, and gamepad, And obviously that wouldn't be the case for Switch, but not only can you do that, but you can also do it for like every possible different situation. So there's like, oh, when you when you press this button in the overworld, this happens. When you press this button in your bag, this happens. When you press this button in your bag and you've currently got something selected in your bag, it can do a different thing. So like it's so detailed into the like ridiculous level, which just is incredible for accessibility. Like people can do whatever they want with this and their control schemes, and it's really good.
It's really nice. Big improvement. My biggest gripe with the first game, I think, they added a volume level specifically for Nobi's sounds that he makes when you're farming.
Shut up, Nobi. Nobody needs to hear your stupid grunts.
Oh my god. It was so bad in the first one that I just turned the volume for all voices all the way down. Yeah. And it was, not that I was like missing a whole ton, but it was just a shame that I had to do that in order to get rid of that sound, which was so grating by the time you hit, hour 10 of it.
I do love that it's like, okay, we'll implement the feature to like shut our main character up.
Yeah. Yep. It seems like before I turned it off, which was pretty quickly, it did seem like they had limited it to like every once in a while and not every single action, which was also a big thing. I mean, the first one was every single time you would do anything, Nobi would grunt. And it wasn't like different grunts. It was the same grunt every single time. Very annoying. So that's nice that they have removed that. Another big thing that they've added, the map. When you go to the map, you can select all the different areas and they will show you the shop times on the map.
Finally.
Which is very nice because the shop times are, and they were in the first one too, but they're kind of all over the place where it's like they take breaks in the middle of the day. So it's a little bit harder to keep track of what everyone's doing and where they are or what's open. And just briefly branching off of that, they do a really good job of showing you where everybody is on the map, so that if you do want to talk to them or seek them out, you can see where they are on the map. If you don't know specifically where they are on the map, you can go to the relationships tab or the connections tab, I think it's called, in the menu, and under their name it will tell you what building they're into, which is really nice.
Yeah, that just seems to be the story of this game, right? Like, other than obviously the fact that there's a whole new story and a whole new village, like other than that, basically this game is improving on the previous game in a number of different ways, of really small things, but things that were just really annoying over time.
Yeah. I also really like the setting more, and I think it's maybe not just because it's
interesting,
a different setting, that or like any more of a theme than the previous one, which was really not much of a theme. I just, in general, I like the castle town setting and the,
Yeah. So this might be where I don't dislike the theme. I don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with is and I don't think it's because it's big, because I think we've played games that are bigger than this, but especially for like at the beginning, I just kept getting lost in this game. And I don't know what, I think it's something to do with like, I think it's a combination of it's a bigger map than the previous one, but they still do the different areas in the same way. So I find it really difficult to figure out how to get from an area to another area. So it's not like, you don't just have like straight roads, which is fine and good. And it feels more realistic.
Right.
But it was much more manageable in the previous game, I found, because there were fewer areas.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when I say I like the setting, I mean more like I like the theme I
just these things are quite linked, you know.
I do agree that was a little bit harder getting a grasp of where everything was or what directions things were in early on. But now I'm kind of at that point where I have like a pretty good system for moving around the map, which I think is also kind of they design the relationships in that way too, so that you have to go to these different areas throughout the day if you're going to talk to somebody. Still has the nap function.
Yes, which is definitely one of the better things in a farming game.
Yes.
Is the ability to just nap almost wherever you are. There's like a few areas where you can't do it, like in the way of like shops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. They have also said it. I don't believe this. I know that this wasn't the case for the first one, but they have set now a hard barrier on taking a nap. You can't take a nap past 1600.
4 p.m. I think it was. Yeah.
So that is
I'm a little bit. I was a little bit bummed by that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I enjoyed kind of going really late in the evening and just doing another level of the mine or whatever, but yeah, sure, fine, whatever.
I was kind of in the same boat. I wrote in my notes in parentheses after that. I wrote, because it seemed kind of like a weird thing to put a cap on, but I think it encourages you to like not drop your stamina by staying up super late, I guess,
Yeah.
But you can kind of undo that a little bit anyways with the clinic, which is one of the shops that you can go to. They sell 2 items that you can buy that increase your stamina quite a bit. Not increase it, but give you more stamina.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of get one of them replenishes your stamina like almost half, or at least half, which is a pretty big amount. So it's pretty easy to like nap it early in the day and then just have one of those stamina drinks ready to go at night to keep going. So I don't know. I don't really understand why they cap it at 4 o'clock, but I guess maybe it's just to encourage you to go home. Also, I don't know if you knew this or you encountered this. There was nothing that was really obvious to me about it, but another way that you can replenish some stamina is if you eat dinner with your quote-unquote family.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't tried that because, as we've mentioned before, I don't like people. But interesting.
Yeah, if you go to the house at, I don't know when it is, between like 1800 and 2000, which is, I don't know, I'm terrible with 24-hour clocks. What is that? 6 o'clock? 1800? Is that 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. Somewhere between like 6 and 8 o'clock. If you go to the house, then everybody will be sitting down eating, and you can go to the table and sit down. There's a really brief, scene of them eating, and then you have regained some stamina. So there's other ways to regain stamina. It just seems weird that the napping was capped. I did find myself in the first one, though, utilizing that napping a lot, and to the point where I was like staying up later and later and later mining or something like that and getting stuff done. So maybe it is better for like the gameplay loop to have that kind of hard cutoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I used it about the same.
Yeah.
It feels like it's such a good aspect of things. Just being able to like, especially early game, it's like, sure, you get less of your day, but you have less things that can give you stamina early in the game. So I've always loved that, and I don't think it kind of ruined other farming games in a way, because you can't do this in them.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you'd mentioned that we all live in the same house together now.
Yeah.
My initial thought for that was that it feels a lot less personal, which I kind of liked about the first one, that you were kind of designing your house your own way. It was yours. You could change the furniture and it's whatever.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of weird. Not like a weird aspect of a farming game. Like, it's a pretty common thing, that one, the being able to control how your house is. But it didn't feel within the kind of rest of the game. Like, it felt like different from the rest. Because it instead of like most farming games where you're playing a character that you create, you're playing Nobi.
Right.
And the idea that you have a lot of control over these things felt a little bit weird, in that like the rest of it is about Nobi's story.
Yeah.
And so this one feels much more like that. And like, I think, as much as I'm never a huge fan of like the relationships in these things, unless they're really good, cough, Stardew, cough. I think that for someone who would care, I think it makes sense to be much closer to the friends that you've literally come to another planet with.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how far you've gotten into the game.
Not as far as you.
So there is, I don't think it's spoilers, but you can expand your house the same way you could in the previous one, and the same way you can in any of them. When you do expand it, it's kind of like part of the story. It's like one of the like main quests to expand your house the first time. And when you do, it gives you more. They put more beds in the house so that you can in their like story explanation, or the in-game explanation, is so that if you want to have friends over for sleepovers or something, you can. Ultimately, there's a reason that they give you more beds, but that's all I'll say about that. But they do add an extra room that is solely for designing in, which is kind of like, I guess, a compromise, but it's very weird. I haven't touched it. Because I haven't really felt like
bother.
Yeah, there's no like, if it's not affecting the whole house, or it's not affecting the whole living space, then I guess I don't particularly care as much,
Exactly.
Like, what am I going to do in that room? Like, it's not like I'm going to...
It's almost like they don't understand why people want that feature in the first place.
Right. Yeah. It's a little weird. But if you really, really want to be able to decorate something in your house, there is the ability to. I don't know if that changes more as you upgrade further. I would assume at least the room gets bigger, but I don't know what, maybe there's furniture sets or something for the whole house that you can pick or whatever. I don't know. Speaking of the house, though, they did add, and I do really like this, they added a fish tanks and bug tanks, where you can keep bugs or fish that you catch as pets, and you feed them, and they kind of just are on display. I kind of like that. I like that it gives more to the fishing and the bug catching than just either it's making money or it's contributing to a catalog.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that like we all really liked about New Horizons, was being able to like add to your collection and you see it physically rather than just being a checklist. And it's the same sort of thing. Yeah, it's nice to see that and I kind of hope that they do that in future Story of Seasons games. Kind of add that feature in more, because it's a neat thing. Like they put a lot into the like models of these really detailed bugs that are, and fish that are real world creatures that they are, that they're designing them after. So why not give us a way to display them other than a book that just has some stats in it. One thing I find really funny, just remembering this because we were talking about Nobi. So they have voice acting in this game, but it's the Japanese voice acting. Right? They don't have translated voice acting, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But what I will tell you is really weird is because they translate Nobi's name to Nobi. In Japanese, it's Nobito or Nobito or however it's said. The voice acting still has the Japanese name.
Oh, yeah. So his name his name in the his like canon name is Nobita Nobi. So his like name is Nobi Nobi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you'll see on screen that says Nobi, but the voice acting, and you won't understand most of it, right? Because you don't speak the Japanese.
Yeah.
You'll just hear Nobitu, and you're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's just weird. Like hearing a different name from what you're reading.
Nobita-kun, which is like, kind of like it's a Japanese thing too, where his first name technically is Nobi, and his surname is technically Nobita. So they'll call him is in like Japanese culture. They'll call, like I would maybe call. Do people on the internet know your last name?
Well, it's on my Twitter account. So
okay. Okay. But it would be like I would call you McKinley-kun or something like that, you know, where it was like I'm using the surname as the, I don't know.
Yeah, but the weird thing is the inconsistency, right? Like, right. I don't have an issue with that. Like, that makes sense. But the weird thing is the inconsistency. Like, the words is different from what's said, and that's what's weird.
Sure.
Right? Like, I think that either they should, like, call him what they call him in Japanese, obviously without the kun, whatever, right? Like, that doesn't, not trying to Japaneseify it, right? But, like, it's weird that they're changing what name they're using. That's the weird bit.
Yeah.
Or not consistently using it. Not consistently using it.
Yeah, I like would guess that, like, I've seen
English voice acting as well, it wouldn't be as weird.
Right. And I've seen that in a lot of games that have been not translated, but localized from Japan. It's kind of a common thing. So I guess it doesn't bother me as much, but, yeah, I see what you're saying, that, like, hearing it and seeing it as two different names is weird. But yeah, it's ultimately his name is Nobi Nobi, which is like a kind of goofy thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just looking through my notes here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. One thing. I really hate the rules around what you can and can't call animals. So they make you name your animals, sure, fine, whatever. People, long-time listeners to the podcast will know that I do not care about naming things. And in Stardew, I would click the random name button and click OK on the first one. And in Pokemon, I do not name my Pokemon. I do not care. I am bad at naming things. I don't like naming things. And just it's not a thing that I do. And I love when a game doesn't make me do it. This game makes you do it. Sure, fine, whatever. In every farming game that makes you do it, I will call my chickens chick 1, chick 2, chick 3, etc. I'll call my cows cow 1, cow 2, etc. That's just what I do. Do not get at me. I do not care. It's not something I'm going to do. This game doesn't let me do that.
It doesn't?
And I can't figure out the rules. So I initially went, okay, great, first chicken, that's fine, I'll call it chick 1. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Huh, that's weird. Oh, maybe it's because it's a number. So I typed in chick 1, but 1 is letters. No, it wouldn't let me do that either. This is really weird. What's happening here? And then so I was like, let me just call this one chick, and then I'll figure it out for the second one. No, I couldn't call it chick.
That's so strange.
I can't call my chicken chick. So I was like, oh, I don't know. Bob? Like, I don't. This is not
so odd. I didn't realize that there were any restrictions on that. I have like
bizarre restriction
names that I always default to, that I've always defaulted to, just like since I was a kid, for my farm animals. Like my horse has kind of always been Epona, and my cows are always Whitney or whatever, like kind of all names. Chickens are like Nugget, and
yeah, and that's fine. And I'm glad that people have the ability to name things. I think it's really important for people who care about it. It makes you get closer to these things. Sure, fine, like that's great, but don't make me do it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were restricted. I've never heard of that either, which is interesting.
Yeah, I've never come across a game that doesn't let me call my chicken Chick One. It has never happened. And I do not understand why they're doing this and what the restrictions are. It's not like it was a bad word or anything.
I don't know. It's weird. I would be curious
just after the fourth one, I gave up and just called it Bob.
Well, there you go. Just start calling Bob 1 and Bob 2, and I would be curious to see what their restrictions are, like the actual restrictions are. I am assuming we'll never see that, but
no.
It's curious.
So bizarre.
I
think that's most of my main points. Like this definitely feels like an updated version of the game with a new story.
Yeah.
Rather than like Harvest Moon Story Seasons has generally gone big with its updates. Like this is a completely new game with a completely new different style of doing things. And this is very much not that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it does limit what you can say about it, especially when we're not trying to talk about the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say from my personal experience, I know that you don't like people, you don't like the relationships don't really appeal to you. I will say that even though this has kind of forced me into it to some degree, like I guess force isn't really the right word. It's encouraged me to
nudged you
pursue them. Because I typically don't, and this has made it more accessible for me to be able to, and I think it's made it more accessible for a lot of people to be able to.
Yeah,
I will say the amount of cutscenes and the frequency for which you get cutscenes for increasing your relationship with NPCs can be kind of overbearing sometimes. There was one day in particular that I had, no joke, 12 cutscenes back to back to back to back.
It's bizarre.
And it triggers them when you enter certain areas. Oh, that reminds me. This is my biggest gripe. This is by far my biggest gripe for the whole game. When you enter an area that has a cutscene, sometimes that cutscene will move locations and continue somewhere else.
Oh, yes.
And when the cutscene is finished, it has moved you to that location. It doesn't return you to where you started. So there have been situations
like when you first get the pickaxe, right? And you're in like the cave, and then they're like, "Oh, now you're in the mine." And you're like, "Where am I?"
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really terrible too with when you have the horse, because it leaves your horse wherever you were previously. So then you have to walk back to the horse to get it. Very strange. I don't understand why they did that. I don't understand why they wouldn't just revert you to where you were. It's arguably my least favorite part of the game, especially because of how frequently cutscenes happen. That being said, though, it does the way that the game handles relationships does make it a lot more accessible to people who maybe wouldn't normally do it. And on top of that, I do think that the stories for the NPCs are actually very good. They're very kindergartenish in the way that they're presented, but the subject matter for the NPC stories is also very mature in a lot of ways. Some of them are tackling, I won't say specifics or who or what to avoid spoiling anything, but just to give you an idea of the kinds of subject matter. It touches on, chronic illness. It touches on parent-child relationships. It touches on all kinds of different things that are pretty mature for what Doraemon is, which is more geared towards children. And it does a really good job of, I don't know, telling these stories in a kind of interesting and compelling way that is still kind of up to you to approach them if you want to. There is a lot of this overarching theme of children versus their parents throughout the relationship of children and their parents. That starts
I
with
believe that's quite a standard Doraemon storyline anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a pretty typical thing. This is very much, they lean into it in a lot of ways, and you can see when you're starting a story or a story is changing as you're increasing your relationship, you can tell that, this dynamic is going to be different because of, X reason with parents and children and what their relationship is now and things like that. So, and the amount of writing that went into all of these different characters is pretty impressive. I think they all have a very well written backstory. So I think it's neat. There is one other thing that is kind of a new mechanic, that is story related, but it's, I don't know, I think you're supposed to get to it earlier than I did, but there are gigantic crops, which are like just big. There's different plots on your farm once you unlock them that are dedicated to just growing one of a giant crop. And it has to be grown in these giant plots. And in order to harvest the crop, you have to get help from another person on your farm. So, Sue or Big G or Sneetch or Doraemon or whatever, whoever you've got, because you all live together. At some point earlier in the game, you get the ability to bring someone along to help you farm if you want to. And you have to bring them to harvest these giant crops. I kind of blew it on my first one because I got it very shortly before spring ends, and I didn't realize that it had a different timer than because it was a turnip. I didn't realize it had a different timer than the actual turnip, so it was a like a 13-day timer for the big turnip, and I do not have 13 days left in spring. So but it's a neat thing. It's a neat new thing to add to the game as far as crops and farming and stuff goes.
Yeah. No, definitely. Cool. Any other specific good or gripe things you want to cover?
There is a questing system that's kind of neat. This is actually really good because my issue with all these things is there's loads of stuff to do. What do you want to do? It's very similar to kind of like Stardew's one, but kind of kicked up a notch, and it has kind of indicators on the map and stuff like that. So it works really well, I think, especially as they give you a good idea of how it works straight away. Right.
When you load up the game and it's go talk to these 8 people, which is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very kind of leisurely as you want, as you have the time to do it. The time frames for the quests are pretty broad. The only ones that there are requests, which I think are similar to the Stardew ones, where it's bring me this, I don't know, specific crop, or bring me this specific crafted item or something. And those have a pretty big timer on them, multiple weeks. So it's kind of nice that you can just kind of do them as you want. But there is a little bit of I almost wish that there was a cap to how many requests there are, because they're just never ending. So if you finish the 4 quests, you only get 4 per day posted to the bulletin board, and if you finish all 4 of them, then the next day there are 4 brand new ones. But if you don't finish them, or finish the ones that you've taken, then those slots are still filled. So you can keep finishing requests and taking new requests as much as you want, which is great, but also put a cap on it, I think. For me personally, like, I would like it to just be like, you have this number of things that you have to do, and you have to get them done by the end of spring or something, and that's it. But main quests, side quests, requests, they're all kind of in the same portion of the menu. They're pretty accessible. It's a neat way to keep you doing things and growing different crops and trying different things and advancing the story and things like that. So
yeah.
And then I think the last little thing that's different is that you're getting the gadgets for Doraemon like pretty regularly.
There's a lot more of them this time than there were last game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would make sense that you get more of them quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess summary: if you liked the first game, this is a really good thing. I think it's definitely more geared towards people who are really invested in like story and characters and stuff. But it's still like, you're not going to get a significantly different experience from the last game if you don't care about that. Which isn't necessarily bad. It's just, what you are wanting, what you're expecting, is important to know going in. But yeah, if you like story, I have it on good authority from Micah here that it's enjoyable stuff.
Yeah, so, I think so.
Whereas I'm just like, I don't really care that much, but that's fine. We play in different ways.
Right. And I think that I could be wrong, but the progression of it now feels like the intention is to have you at, with the way that they pace it, if you're playing following the way that they intentionally pace it, that you would have max relationship with everybody within the first year. I'm assuming so that it feels like once you complete a year, then you have completed the majority of the game, is my guess. And then you can kind of just enter the standard farming rigmarole after that. Yeah.
I mean, you can absolutely ignore all that stuff as well if you want. Like, that's the advantage of these kind of games.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you, Micah, for joining me to talk about another Doraemon Story of Seasons game. I don't think either of us ever expected we'd get another one.
I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised, but shocked.
And not just that, but on the same day that Japan gets it.
Yeah. Localized on the same day. Incredible. Never
more
would
of
have thought.
That, please.
I look forward to talking again for Doraemon 3. Friends of the, I don't know, farming planet.
We've got a wonderful life, and presumably we'll have another terrible Harvest Moon game at some point.
Oh yeah. I'm just hoping that this means that there's going to be a Doraemon 3.
I mean, yeah, I guess we'll see. I've not looked at sales numbers. I don't know how well this one's sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will.
Micah, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, things are a little weird right now. Normally I would just say Twitter.
That's true.
But you can find me kind of all over the place. You can find me on Twitter at Micah the Brave, pretty much everywhere at Micah the Brave. I'm on Instagram as well. I just started using Tumblr again. I have tried.
What? Why is that?
I have tried Mastodon, which I had an account for a long time ago, but I don't remember what it is. So I started a new one after kind of figuring out how it works. You can find me there at mstdn.social/@MicahTheBrave or at MicahTheBrave.mstdn.social. Still,
don't worry, listeners; those will be in the show notes.
It's still a little bit clunkier than your standard social media, but it's something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm all over the place. I'm just kind of diversifying so that if something happens, then I'll be somewhere else. You could find me if you want.
I don't know what would happen. Don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
You can find me on Twitter at TheScottBot. You can find me on Mastodon at mastodon.scott/TheScottBot, which might be a confusing thing to hear, but again, those will all be in the show notes. You can find the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. We do not have a Mastodon as of yet. We don't have anything else as of yet, but we do have the Twitter still. We also have a website. You can find our website, harvestseason.club. So even if something does happen on Twitter, you can find us stuff there. You can also email us from the website. There's a form there. You can do that. You can also find links to everything else related to us, including our Patreon, where you can subscribe to support the podcast and get access to our extra podcast episodes available to patrons. In our next one, we will be talking about Harvestella, and we will probably not be on the same page, unlike in this episode. We'll see what happens in that.
Yes, indeed.
I think that's everything. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you, Micah, again for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And until next time, have
a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our Pro Farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
What was the last episode you were on? Because we've not had a...
I mean, we did Dora. There's no way it's been since Dora.
No, it's not. It's not.
We
Rune
did
Factory 5.
Oh, yeah.
April. Right. That was our last episode together. All right. It's been a while.